At 40, a doctor flipped to page 11, read my answers, and said, "Yep, you definitely have ADHD." And that was the whole appointment. It took me another 11 years to find out that was only half the story. I was 40 when the doctor first told me what was wrong with me, and it took 2 appointments. At the first one, she handed my wife and I a photocopy of some papers and asked us to fill them out. At the second one, she flipped to page 11, looked at the answers, and said, "You definitely have ADHD." And that was it. That was the whole thing. She was right, but right and helpful turned out to be different things. She wrote me a prescription, and that was the end of the professional support I received for a condition she had just named. I sat in the car afterwards, holding a bottle of pills, trying to work out what I was supposed to do next, because nobody told me. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know yet that I was only halfway to a real picture. Then my doctor quit. I want to be careful here because she didn't do anything wrong by leaving. People leave jobs. But when she left, I had no doctor, which meant I had no prescriber, which meant I had no medication, and that went on for years. Think about what that actually says. The entire structure holding up my treatment was one person, not a system, not a care plan, one woman, and page 11 and a photocopy. When she walked out that door, the whole thing came crashing down with her. Like, I went back to doing what I had done for the previous 40 years, which was white knuckle it and assume that the problem was me. I got back on medication around 45, 5 years. That's what the gap cost me, and I'm one of the fortunate ones because eventually I found my way back. Here's what I still didn't understand. ADHD and autism are different things, and nobody was offering to check for the second one. Adult autism assessment is not something most doctors suggest. The systems that exist were built for children. Where I live, our public health insurance doesn't cover psychological assessment for an adult, so if you want to know, you have to pay for it yourself, and it's not cheap. I have yet to meet someone whose system made this easy wherever they live. Before you pay for it, you have to find somebody qualified. You have to work up the nerve to book the appointment and sit with the possibility that what you've suspected about yourself for years might be confirmed by someone whose opinion actually counts. This is not a small thing. I already had a clue that something was incomplete. The medication helped some things, but there were patterns I couldn't explain from the ADHD side alone. The grocery store drained me. A waiting room with 4 people and a television I wasn't watching could leave me flattened for hours. I love church and I want to be there. It still cost me the full afternoon to recover. The last one took me a while to sit with. Wanting something and being exhausted by it are not mutually exclusive. The preference is real, and the sensory load was also real. Nobody had told me that those things could both be true at the same time. So I found a psychologist, I paid for the assessment, and I waited for the results. I was 51, 11 years after page 11. And when they came back, I had the full picture for the first time. And AuDHD, autism and ADHD together, each one shaping how the other one shows up. My psychologist told me something, and I've not been able to put it down since. But she said, if I was 20, this would be definite. But the years of masking and the other things I've carried meant she can't say for certain. Sit with that. The tools work on a 20-year-old. They do not work as well on a man who spent 5 decades getting very good at hiding. The better I got at surviving without help, the harder I became to see. That's not a flaw in me, that's a gap in the instruments. What I remember most is not a finding. It's the moment I understood I hadn't been faking it. I didn't know until that moment how much of my life I'd spent wondering. I wasn't faking it. The thing was real. It always had been. Psalm 139 says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I believe that. What I know now is that fearfully and wonderfully made doesn't mean easily made. Here's the part I missed for most of my life. That psalm does not open with how well I was built. It opens with being known. You've searched me and you know me. Before there was a questionnaire, before there was a page 11, Before there was a single person in the room qualified to look at me, I was already seen completely. Nothing about me was a surprise to the one who made me. The system could not find me, but God never lost me. The wiring I've got was always going to be mine. The difference is whether I know what I'm working with. Here's what the diagnosis actually gave me. Not a fix, permission. Permission to advocate for myself instead of apologizing for myself. Permission to tell people what I need and to hand them information instead of an excuse. Permission to take a sick day when my brain has run out of road without filing it under moral failure. Permission to take my sleep seriously. Permission to take my food seriously. Permission to treat myself with the same care I would give anyone else I love. I spent decades believing I did not qualify for that care. I could not point to anything that proved I needed it, so I assumed I didn't. The paper doesn't fix me. The paper lets me stop arguing with myself about whether I'm allowed to try. If you're in the fog right now, wondering whether to pursue a proper assessment, it's slow, it's expensive, and it costs more than money. It was worth it for me not because the label fixes anything, but because you stop fighting yourself when you know what you're actually fighting. The system wasn't built to find you. That doesn't mean there is nothing there. Some of you will never get the paper. The waiting list is years long. The money isn't there. The nearest person who assesses adults is 3 hours away and isn't taking anyone new. I want to be careful here because I refuse to hand you a consolation prize and call it a gift. Here's what I actually think. The paper's for the system. It's how you get medication. It's how you ask for accommodation. It's how you fill in a government form, but it's not what makes the wiring real. The assessment did not create my wiring, it described it. It was already there doing what it does for 51 years before anyone scored a questionnaire about it. You already have the wiring. What you may not have is access. And that's a failure of the system, not a verdict on you. Do not let the waiting list tell you that you're making this up. The diagnosis didn't change what's hard. The grocery store still costs me, and Sunday morning still costs something. What changed is what I know I'm dealing with now. For 51 years, I thought the problem was me. For 11 of those years, I had a piece of the answer and nobody helped me hold it. Now I know it was something in me, something real, and something nameable, and something a lot of people are still carrying around without a name. If you're one of them, the name matters. Not because it changes anything, because it changes how you carry it. This is The Unfinished Man, 1 letter a week, free. There's also a free guide to this kind of wiring linked at the top of the description. If this is you, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.